Hello everyone, with the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Wednesday evening, February 15th, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Also feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so let us take a look at a tweet that was posted on Twitter recently by Philip Klutzbach. If you don't know him, he is a meteorologist at Colorado State University, specializing in Atlantic Basin seasonal hurricane forecast. He's one of the people that you guys need to follow if you're not already following them regarding the hurricane season. He stated in one of his latest tweets that the latest NOAA ENSO forecast gives a 60% chance of El Nino for the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, August to October. El Nino typically reduces Atlantic hurricane activity via increases in vertical wind shear. Too much shear tears apart hurricanes. And he shows all of this information that he just stated on a bar graph, highlighting that by the period August, September, October, which is the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, we might be in for some reds. That's the El Nino. And what's the El Nino? El Nino, if you actually take a look at Andy Hazelton's tweet, Andy is also a scientist at the NOAA. If you're not already following him, you need to fix that. He said new ECMWF seasonal shows a full-on El Nino developing by summer. We'd likely have a quiet Atlantic year if this happened, but I'm skeptical a flip will happen that quickly. Last February's forecast verified 1 degree Celsius too warm for summer 2022. However, he's highlighting the same thing that Philip Klutzbach just highlighted, an El Nino. What's an El Nino? That's basically the warming of the sea surface temperatures right there across the western portions of South America, right there from the eastern Pacific all the way into the central Pacific. And what do we usually have taking place weather-wise? We have a lot of greens that represent a lot of moisture, rainfall, storms, hurricane being formed across the eastern to the central and even western Pacific. And what does this in turn do for us here over in the Caribbean? It causes all of those browns that represent dry weather. So little to no hurricane activity, little to no rainfall. So there's a chance that the drought that we're experiencing right now in the dry season might even be extended into the peak of the hurricane season, with the lack of tropical storms, tropical depression, tropical waves, whatever the case may be. Lots of vertical wind shear is going to be in store for us in the Caribbean. And we even have some line graphs here that's highlighting the rise in the chances of an El Nino coming by the peak of our hurricane season. Even his updated maps recently still highlighting the same. So browns represent dry weather across portions of the Caribbean, all the greens across portions of the eastern, central and western Pacific. But we know these things can go. There's a chance that it might even flip or might not even happen. It is just a waiting game at this point. So we shall see exactly what happens. I will be keeping you all posted as time goes on. Alright, so let us take a look at the significant feature map across the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that we have a high pressure ridge right there to the east of the United States, to the north of the Caribbean. That's sending a lot of easterly winds from the main development region into the Caribbean. We can see that we have a cold front right there that has induced a trough to the north of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. And if you actually take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see all of those low-level clouds being pushed from east to west by that high-pressure ridge. And we can see the clouds associated with that cold front stretching all the way from the northern section of the North Atlantic all the way down. And we can see the trough, the clouds associated with that trough across portions of Turks and Caicos, mainly to the north of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean later on. Let us focus our attention on the post that was made yesterday for today's forecast. It was stated that we would have received some amount of rainfall in the early morning hours across sections of northern and eastern Jamaica about 6 a.m. And what happened? The post was made at 6:25 a.m., highlighting some amount of clouds, bringing some isolated showers to sections of northern and eastern Jamaica. And we even had a commenter on our Instagram page confirming the rainfall. One commenter stating we're getting little on and off showers in Brownstown, that's in the parish of St. Anna, northern parish. So that forecast indeed came true. And then during the afternoon, if we actually take a look at the visible satellite images, we can see some amount of clouds bring overcast skies and maybe some isolated showers across a portion of St. Catherine, Clarendon, maybe southern Manchester, northwestern St. Elizabeth, as well as Westmoreland, all the way up into the evening hours. And if you actually take a look at the accumulated precipitation that we got from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, we can see that yes, we had some amount of rainfall across portions of northern and eastern Jamaica, as well as the same spots in the afternoon to evening hours. So Westmoreland, northwest St. Elizabeth, section of Clarendon, section of St. Catherine, as well as southern Manchester. If we actually take a look at the temperatures for tonight, we can see that we have 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, and as usual, these temperatures should be getting lower as the night progresses. If we actually take a look at the temperatures for tomorrow, we can see that for the most part, Jamaica is in the clear. We're not in the yellows or the oranges or the reds that represent above normal temperatures, and we're not in the blues on both maps that represent below normal temperatures. We're basically in between, so we should be getting average temperatures for tomorrow. And what are the average temperatures for the month of February? About 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we look at the equivalent to 86 degrees Fahrenheit on the thermometer, that's about 30 degrees Celsius for tomorrow across Jamaica. If we actually take a look across Jamaica for tomorrow in terms of dry air, we can see that Jamaica is still embedded in all of those oranges and reds that's associated with a lot of dry air. However, all the Saharan dust associated with the Sahara Desert is over there by Africa and the main development region. Jamaica is in the clear for 2 p.m. on Thursday. If you actually take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that on both the Euro and the GFS, Jamaica should be getting some, let's say, 2-meter wave heights, mainly to the far southeast of the island. For the most part, Jamaica should be getting less than 2-meter wave height, especially on the north coast, so it should be a nice beach day for those people on the north coast. As it relates to why we're going to be getting some high wave heights across the south and the east, that's because of the strong winds that we'll be getting coming in from the east or the east southeast, slightly east southeast. So somewhere from 25 to 30 knots are expected, as we can see by those yellows, across those open waters to the south and east of the island on both the Euro and the GFS for 12 p.m. on Thursday. For the most part, Jamaica should be getting more of an easterly flow. But where does all of this air pile up? We can see some blues across portions of inland areas of maybe central and western Jamaica. And we know that when we usually have air piling up across an area with the less amount of wind, that's where we have the buildup of clouds that form some form of, if not isolated showers, some afternoon thunderstorms. So we shall see exactly what unfolds during the afternoon. Either way, all of this wind coming in from the east of the sea, we might get some amount of isolated showers coming in off the sea tomorrow. And with the wind shear coming in from more of a west-northwest kind of fashion, there's a chance that there might be a bias of any rainfall across portions of southern Jamaica. So we shall see exactly what happens with that. As it relates to the precipitation forecast for tomorrow, we can see that by 7 a.m. we have some blues across portion of St. Thomas and Portland on the Euro model. The GFS model has something similar, some amount of blues that represent some amount of rainfall. Then moving on to 9 a.m. we see something similar on the Euro, with more getting in some blues across portion of southern Jamaica as well. So St. Thomas and Portland still in for some rainfall tomorrow, 9 a.m. on the Euro. GFS showing something similar. Moving on to 11 a.m. now, we can see that the blues are still there across portions of St. Thomas and Portland, both the Euro and the GFS. Some making its way into southern Jamaica, so maybe Manchester, Clarendon, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine might get in on some of that rainfall as well. And then by afternoon, look at this, by 4 p.m. we see some blues across portions of the island on the Euro. But where do we have consensus on the GFS? We see the consensus across western Jamaica. So maybe Hanover, Westmoreland might get in on some of that afternoon convection. That's where we see the consensus. The GFS not so much across central and eastern Jamaica like what the Euro is showing. So we shall see exactly what unfolds at 4 p.m. tomorrow. As it relates to the accumulated precipitation forecast for tomorrow, both the Euro and the GFS are showing some amount of rainfall, less than an inch of rainfall, up to let's say 0.5 of an inch of rainfall on both maps for the eastern section of the island. So St. Thomas and Portland definitely getting in on some rainfall, and with all of that rainfall starting from let's say 7 a.m. going all the way up to 12, it makes sense that the accumulated precipitation is showing this much rainfall across portions of eastern Jamaica for tomorrow. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's talk briefly about the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we have a lot of clouds right there across portions of Dominican Republic, section of Puerto Rico, section of the Windward Islands, the ABC Islands, section of Costa Rica, portions of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, as well as French Guiana getting in on some amount of cloud cover that's bringing some amount of isolated showers to those spots. And if you actually take a look at the Doppler radar images, we can see where we've been having that rainfall. If you actually put these images into motion from 2 p.m. today, we can see those clouds. Well, we can see that rainfall. The green represents light to moderate rainfall. If we see any yellows in there, that represents heavy rainfall. All of that coming in more from the northwest or the northeast or the east northeast. So we saw rainfall across portions of Puerto Rico, the British and US Virgin Islands, St. Martin. We saw some rainfall across portions of St. Kitts, maybe some across portions of Anguilla, St. Martin, Barbuda, Antigua, Montserrat, maybe even Guadeloupe got in on some amount of rainfall today. We can see that. Looks like Dominica was spared for the most part. Martinique got in on some of that rainfall as well. If we actually take a look at the Barbados radar, we can see a lot of scattered showers around the island, in and around the island. So we had some amount of rainfall, especially across eastern Barbados today. And we see a lot more rainfall to come tonight. And it will be, or it's already affecting portions of, let's say, St. Vincent, about sections of St. Lucia, Grenada, not to mention portions of Tobago getting in on some of that rainfall right now. If we actually take a look at a wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see some amount of rainfall across portions of, let's say, Guyana, French Guiana, as well as Suriname right there. If you actually take a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see that we have some amount of slightly below average temperatures across portions of the eastern Caribbean for 1 p.m. on Thursday. Both maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing 1 p.m. on Thursday, and we have consensus across a majority of the eastern Caribbean islands. The northeastern Caribbean seems to be in the clear to be getting average temperatures, but it's from, let's say, Guadeloupe all the way down to Trinidad, even sections of northern Venezuela and Colombia, even the ABC Islands, getting in on some amount of below average temperatures. However, the above average temperatures seem to be right there across portions of Hispaniola, the Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas, Cuba, the United States in general, well, the eastern United States, the Gulf of Mexico, Mexico itself, Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras getting in on some amount of above normal temperatures for tomorrow. If we actually take a look at the Saharan dust forecast for tomorrow, we can see that we have majority of the Caribbean in the clear. All of the dust seems to be right there across portions of, let's say, the main development region and Africa. If you actually take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that the strongest waves or the highest waves seem to be right there to the north of Hispaniola, to the north of Puerto Rico, to the east of the eastern Caribbean islands, as well as to the south of Jamaica and to the north of Panama and Colombia. And why is that? That's due in part by all of that strong winds that we'll be receiving tomorrow because of that high pressure ridge to the east of the United States. So we can see those yellows that represent up to 25 to 30 knot winds to the north of Hispaniola, as well as across portions of the northeastern Caribbean. So sections of Puerto Rico, sections of the US and British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, Barbuda, Antigua getting in on some amount of strong winds tomorrow on the Euro and the GFS models. And the strongest winds seem to be right there across portions of the southern Caribbean. So that area to the north of Colombia, to the south of Jamaica, to the south of Haiti, right there, should be getting in on the strongest winds for tomorrow. And we have consensus on both the Euro and the GFS models. I know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so let us take a look at the precipitation forecast for tomorrow on both the Euro and the GFS. So these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 3Z on Friday. When we calculate that, that's all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Thursday. We can see that for the most part, we're going to be getting less than 0.5 of an inch of rainfall across portions of eastern Dominican Republic, northern Puerto Rico, the northeastern Caribbean, so those islands that were just mentioned, including Anguilla, St. Martin, Barbuda, Antigua might get in on some of that isolated rainfall. You can also see some amount of rainfall, maybe even up to an inch of rainfall right there across the border of Colombia and Venezuela. Section of Colombia, section of Panama getting in on up to an inch of rainfall right there. Maybe some rainfall right there dotting the northern coast of Venezuela. We can see that Trinidad, not so much rainfall like what they've been receiving for the past couple of days. We can see some rainfall across portions of Costa Rica and Nicaragua as well. I know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. If we actually take a look at the western portion of the basin, we can see that Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras are finally getting a chance. Not so much rainfall across those areas from now up until 10 p.m. on Thursday. So we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. So they're in the clear for some nice dry weather. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.